serving in 2 world wars. This ship ended its life right here on this river as a luxury crew liner. This is the story of the USS Sachem. The Sachem would be constructed by the Pussy and Jones Company in the year 1901. The company operated a shipyard in Wilmington, Delaware from the year 1848 to 1959. It was built as a luxury yacht, commissioned by a man named John Maxwell. After it was constructed, it would be christened the Celt, one of many names that the Sachem would hold over the next century. John Maxwell was known as a shrewd businessman and one of the most wealthy people in the late 19th century. He was the president of the Atlas Portland Cement Company and the chairman of the executive committee of the Central Railroad of New Jersey. Upon its completion, it was 186 feet long and 24 feet wide. The Celt was designed by famous yacht architect Henry C. Wintringham. The 2 deckhouses on the Celt were made out of mahogany wood, and both masts were made out of Oregon pine. There were 9 completely furnished staterooms, each with, at the time, modern plumbing and electric power. On April 12th of 1902, after 5 months of construction, the Celt would finally launch. John Maxwell would make the Celt the flagship of his racing fleet. As a yacht enthusiast, he owned dozens of different ships and would routinely participate in yacht races. The Celt would often be seen at many events of the wealthy around New York and Long Island, like the King's Cup in 1907, where John Maxwell's ship, called the Queen, won the race. The Celt was seen sailing around to boost morale. On December 10th of 1910, John Maxwell would pass away. The Celt would be sold to a New York man named Manton Bradley Metcalf, and it would be renamed the Sachem. Although its yacht racing days were behind it, it was about to go on an adventure like none other. This is a ship passing by. Look at this. It's amazing. This is a really incredible ship. Just gotta be careful because there's holes in the hull, like you can see here. Oh wow. I wanted to go down to the lower deck, but it's all filled in, so that's not gonna happen. And right here, stairs would have led to an upper area. That is also missing. It's a shame the lower decks are filled with water, but that's okay. Wow. Look at this. Hey little bugs. Don't worry, I'm not here to bug ya. Look at that. So we'll be looking down there in a second. You can see down there little bits of the lower holes. You can see this right here. Wow. It's amazing. Incredible. A ship that survived 2 world wars. Amazing. The Metcalf family is one of the oldest in America, and Manton Metcalf, who owned a mansion in New Jersey, was a leader in the textile industry. The Sachem would not be owned by him for long. With the outbreak of the First World War, many things in America would change, and the Sachem was about to begin a whole new adventure. During the war, the Germans would deploy the brand new U-boat technology in order to destroy shipments of weapons and supplies from America to England. Upon joining the war, the U.S. Navy would begin requisitioning yachts and sailboats in order to help identify U-boats. These ships were small, fast, and maneuverable, great for recon missions. And the Sachem would be among them. Requisitioned by the Navy on July 3rd of 1917, it would be renamed the USS Sachem with the designation SP-192. The Gas Engine and Power Company would begin outfitting the USS Sachem for war. New navigational technology was installed, as were armaments, including a 57mm deck gun and 2 3-pounder 37mm guns. As the war drove on, the USS Sachem would be converted for another purpose. It would house famous inventor Thomas Edison, as he was trying to come up with new and creative ways to counter the German U-boat. While aboard the USS Sachem, Thomas Edison would work on almost 50 different projects. However, none would go into production. On the 10th of February of 1919, the USS Sachem would be returned to Manton Metcalf. He would later sell it to Ronald Taylor, a businessman who would sell the Sachem in the year 1932, after the Great Depression, when he could no longer afford to maintain it. It was then sold to a fisherman from New York named Captain Jacob Martin, who would convert the Sachem into a new fishing boat. In 1936, the Sachem's steam engine was replaced with a diesel engine, which was a lot more modern and easier to maintain. On December 17th of 1941, the U.S. Navy would requisition the Sachem to be used as a patrol boat once again. The ship would be heavily modified by Robert Jacobs Incorporated in City Island, New York. During this time, it would be renamed the USS Phoenixite, with the new designation PYC-25. The USS Phoenixite would act as an escort, training, and patrol vessel, and would also be part of the Fleet Sonar School Squadron and the Key West Squadron. The Key West Squadron would transfer supplies and munitions, and go on patrols on a rotating basis. After the war, the Phoenixite was going to be scrapped. However, Captain Jacob Martin purchased the ship back and renamed it the Sachem once again. Due to financial problems, he could no longer afford to maintain the Sachem, So in 1946, it would be bought by Circle Line Sightseeing Cruises of New York. It would be renamed the Sightseer and be part of a new fleet of ships that would take tourists around New York. It would be renamed the Circle Line Sightseer in 1955. Finally, later on in the 1950s, it would be renamed again to the Circle Line 5. After 31 years of service and carrying an estimated 2.9 million tourists around New York, in 1977, the Circle Line 5 would be removed from the fleet. It would be sold for scrap, stripped of all of its electrics, equipment, and furnishings. The pilot's house would be taken off the ship and used as a ticket kiosk. It would then sit abandoned on a pier in western New York. A group of volunteers tried to maintain and restore the Circle Line 5, however, eventually they gave up. The owner of the pier would put what was remaining of the Sachem up for sale. In 1985, a businessman, Robert Miller, would purchase the skeleton of the Sachem, looking to restore it for personal use. It would be dredged out of the abandoned pier with the help of bulldozers in 1986. Once seaworthy, the ship would once again be named the Sachem. Shortly after this, Robert Miller was approached by a representative of Madonna, asking to use the Sachem in an upcoming music video. He agreed, and it was featured in the Papa Don't Preach video. Eventually, he decided that he was going to sail the Sachem to Cincinnati, where he was living. Going through the Great Lakes in Chicago, he was going to take the Mississippi all the way down. By the winter of 1988, the voyage was successful. After 40 days, the Sachem rested in a small plot of land on a river in Kentucky. Shortly after the Sachem had arrived at its final destination, the water level of the Ohio River would significantly decrease, and the Sachem would run aground and be stuck in a small muddy bed. Robert Miller could not afford to have the ship moved, so it would stay there, abandoned. In 2009, kayakers Henry Dorfman and James Happ would rediscover the ship sitting in the Taylor Creek. After almost 120 years of history, the Sachem continues to sit in this little creek, its future completely unknown. The Sachem served in 2 world wars, saw many adventures, and ended its life in a small creek. That is, if its life is over. For now, it will never be forgotten.
And every day you give and I take. I'm living the best that I can, but fate never followed my plans. I'm holding you back, so I want you to pack up and grow. Everything you've done is great, but your back has been feeling exhausted from all of the weight. I'll carry this burden myself. Just put me up high on the shelf. Think of me fondly, but please move beyond me and go.
It's over, Caleb. I have the high ground.
You underestimate my power.
Don't try it.